Louisiana baseball takes the weekend series against App State, and in the process, they're able to keep their regional hopes alive. Let's discuss it here on Ragin Rundown. What's good, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode here on Ragin Rundown, the show where you will know all things UL sports. I'm your guy, Jamarcus Fitzpatrick, but you can always call me Fitz. And on today's rundown, we will be talking about Louisiana winning the series against App State. We'll break down where the Sun Belt Conference standings currently look, how they currently look, and also we will talk about the Cajuns' path to an NCAA Regional, some of the potential ways that they can handle business. So coming into this weekend, the Cajuns had suffered a pretty bad midweek loss to UNO, and it was pretty much a must-win series coming into the weekend against App State, as you were sitting as a bubble team based on a lot of projections towards the NCAA baseball regionals that had come out by different media outlets. You were a bubble team. And so to help strengthen your resume, you were going to need to win this series against App State, and you were able to do just that. As we always do, we'll go through some of the game flow. We'll talk about some of the key players that really stood out in this series, and then we'll get into everything else outside of that. So Game one, the Cajuns were able to take a 5-4 victory over App State. Cody Brash gave you some quality innings on the bump early on. He had been the ultimate closer for you, and now he's the ultimate starter. And he kept App State quiet early on, which coming into this series, the Mountaineers were the number one offense in terms of batting average in the league. So to be able to come out and get things really started, or stifling them from a defensive standpoint and off the bump is huge. The Cajuns manufactured their offense. Drew Markle gets an RBI single in the second. Noah Lewis got a sac fly in the third. Steven Spalita created pressure on the base paths. Some of the players that stood out, Steven Spalita, like I mentioned, him had 2 doubles and scored twice. Drew Markle had 2 RBI and a sac fly late. And then Sawyer Pruitt on the bump, as well as Cody Brash, as I mentioned, was a huge relief outing to close the game, even though it got a little bit shaky there in the 9th inning. But where things really turned in this game was the App State tying it up in the 9th, where Sawyer Pruitt was on the mound and he walked a batter in to be able to tie the game at 4 apiece. But then they were able to get out of the jam and go to the 10th inning, and that's where the Cajuns were able to answer. Griffin Hebert comes in and gets a pinch hit single. Blaze Rodriguez steals to second. And then Colt Brown delivers the game-winning RBI single. Shout out to both of those freshmen for handling their business. So the Cajuns get a resilient win, a must-win road win at that on a Friday night. And the bullpen stabilized late after some tense moments. Like I mentioned, Sawyer Pruitt overcoming and responding right there. That's huge for a player being a freshman and being able to respond to something like that. Instead of slumping your head and saying, I messed up and, this is the worst thing ever. It's like, let me respond and get things handled. And that's exactly what he did. Game 2, you had the opportunity to go ahead and win the series early, but instead App State would respond and they get the victory 7-2. Andrew Herman was sharp through 5 innings. Colt Brown gave UL the lead early with a solo homer. He continues to be a huge bright spot for you offensively, and just overall on your team as well, despite being so young. In the 6th inning, completely flipped the game. App State capitalized on defensive errors, timely doubles, and RBI hits from 2 of their players as well. Colt Brown, once again, was somebody that stood out as he had a homer, he doubled, and then scored both of the Cajuns' runs. Blaze Rodriguez had 2 hits and was aggressive on the base pass as well. But the Cajuns stranded runners repeatedly, which is something that you cannot do, especially here late in the season. And then App State's bullpen shut things down late. So it was the perfect storm to result in a loss and set up a huge rubber match. It prevented you from being able to close the series out early, and it set up a huge Sunday game as I'm recording this episode here on Sunday at 6 o'clock after the game. And in Game 3, the Cajuns had a huge response as they get the 12-3 victory. It was an immediate offensive explosion, and then they continued to apply pressure throughout. They punched first with a 2-run first inning, and then they buried App State from there with 4 runs in the second, 6 coming in the fourth. And that was a multitude of guys that were able to help you out offensively. Lee Amedee had 4 RBI, 3 runs scored, and a 3-run homer. Drew Markle had 3 hits and 2 RBI. Owen Galt got his first home run there. And then Ty Roman on the bump gave you a strong start and controlled the game early. Offensively, you were able to get it done in many different ways. You had bunts, you applied pressure, you utilized the being walked and getting on base. You had timely hitting, and you had speed on the base path. It was the perfect execution of the type of game plan that you're going to need to continue to win games, which is early offense, great pitching, slamming the door shut late. Because when you can play with a lead and then play great defense behind all of that, that's always going to be a recipe to give you a chance to win games. So you win the rubber match and you dominate in this one as you had 14 hits. And it sets up a pretty big weekend for you next weekend, the final week of the regular season, the final weekend of Sun Belt Conference play against Coastal Carolina, who is the national runner-up from last year. And it pretty much sets the table for you to keep that at-large bid conversation in place. So there are a lot of things left that we have to discuss. We'll talk a little bit about Coastal Carolina and where things stand. We'll talk about the Sun Belt Conference standings. We'll look at those paths to a regional that the Cajuns can have for themselves. But before we do, I'm going to take a quick timeout, and when we come back, we'll discuss all these things. We'll talk about it when we come back here on Ragin Rundown. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Ragin Rundown, and we're going to get back into the action in just a second. But before we do, if you're watching on YouTube, please like this video, share it, and leave a comment down below. But most importantly, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you're listening, follow the podcast feed, rate the show, and leave us a review, because that's going to help us get in front of more Ragin Cajun fans just like yourself. So Louisiana is now 32-20 overall. They're 14-13 in the conference. Their conference record is 14-13. And the way the standings look is Coastal Carolina and Southern Miss are still 1-2 at the top. Coastal's 20-7. Southern Miss is 19-8. App State is 16-11. They remain third. South Alabama and Troy are third and fourth. You beat South Alabama. You lost to Troy. So they're right above you. UL is their sixth with 14-13 record. Texas State, ODU, and Marshall are all 13-14. Georgia State's 12-15. Arkansas State is 11-16. So is ULM. James Madison is 10-17, and Georgia Southern is 7-20. So that's how things are shaking out. What you've been able to do for yourself now is you're still likely a bubble team on the outside looking in, according to several media outlets that have released like predictions of what a regional selections could look like. But your RPI continues to maintain in a decent spot. But now you have to handle your business next weekend against Coastal Carolina. So that's kind of the context of how things are laid out. What helped in this weekend is, you win a road series against a quality Sun Belt opponent, a top 3 team in the conference. You had an offensive breakout, which is something that we had not seen a ton of throughout this season. Your bullpen continued to show flashes late, and the series win avoided a damaging collapse potentially to any of your postseason hopes. The midweek loss, that did hurt you, and some of the midweek losses that you've had still hurts. But, especially some of the conference series as well, that and the way that things are logjam, that kind of damages some of your resume too. The series that you lose to ULM, they have a 157 RPI. JMU, you lose that series, they have a 174 RPI. Troy and Texas State, they're right in around the same area, so that's not a terrible one. Troy is at a 54 and Texas State is at 42. And so that kind of keeps you in a logjam position, because in theory, a team like a Texas State, they have a very similar type of resume than you do, and their RPI is just a little bit higher than what yours is. So it makes it tougher, especially when you have Coastal and Southern Miss that are likely going to be not only just regional bids, but probably are going to host a regional. You may get 1 or 2 more bids coming out of the conference. It just depends on how things shake out. with the rest of the standings, with the final weekend of the season, and then how things shape up in the conference tournament as well. But you have this final weekend against Coastal. And in my opinion, I think that it's very winnable. I think even though this is a very, very good program that has won every conference series that they've had this season, except this past weekend against Old Dominion, right? Um, they have lost 5 straight weeks of Sunday games. So if you can utilize the fact that you're at home, you can create some or feed off of some of that energy that you're going to have from the home crowd. If you can get a fast start offensively, and Cody Brash can give you a good outing to start off on Friday night, this team has shown that they are susceptible to losing a Sunday game. So it is very much possible that you can handle business and win a close one on Friday night, let things shake out, play to win, let things shake out however they do on Saturday, and then come back on Sunday knowing that this team has a weak spot here and that they have been susceptible to lose on Sundays in the past few weeks. And you could potentially have a weekend series that would boost your RPI tremendously. Because as it stands, Coastal Carolina did have a huge fall in their RPI because they lost to ODU. They were originally around 17, which is in quad one. They lose and they drop 10 spots, right? So they still have a really good RPI, and so do you, or you have a really solid RPI, but winning a series against them could potentially put you up in the mid 30s, somewhere in there. And the committee will look at that and see that, and they could reward you with an at-large bid because of how you close things out in the regular season and where you're going to look in the conference standings. So it's a huge RPI opportunity, and it's going to set the table for the committee to really see how well you've played late in the season. You started off really well. You were ranked in the top 25 at one point, and then you had a mid-season lull that could have been very damaging to your postseason hopes, and now you've started to play really good baseball here on the back half. If I'm not mistaken, I think you've won 10 of your last 13, which is what you want to do and be peaking at the right time towards the back half of the season to show the committee this is a quality baseball team. So in the best case scenario, right, you win this weekend series against Coastal Carolina. Ideally, and in the perfect world, you sweep them. You shock the world and say they came to town and they're the national runner-up from last year, but we don't care anything about that. We're going to play our game. We're going to play pack baseball, and we're going to win. That's the best case scenario. At minimum, you got to win this series still. You're going to have strong pitching start off, like what we talked about. Your guys that have stepped up and have played well, like Colt Brown and Lee Amedee, are going to continue to have to stay hot. You can't have defensive mistakes. You have to clean them up, because when you're playing against a quality opponent like a Coastal Carolina, they smell any blood in the water and they're going to attack, right? Because they know what it takes to be a good team and to win at a championship level. And you have to continue to be aggressive on the base paths, which I know Coach Diggs is going to continue to do that because that's just who he is. I'm thinking that somebody like a Colt Brown, like Blaze Rodriguez, like Drew Markle, like Lee Amedee are going to continue to be guys that are going to have their numbers called quite a bit. And I think Sawyer Pruitt could be somebody that could be a key piece for you. That's going to be interesting to see. Do you use him late on a Friday if you see yourself with an opportunity to steal that Friday night? Or do you save him for Saturday? It's going to be interesting to see how they manage things there out of the bullpen with this upcoming series. So what the Cajuns need to do as they head into the Sun Belt Conference Tournament, they are probably not an at-large lock just yet. Like I said, if they get that series against Coastal Carolina, you still need to play well in the Sun Belt Conference Tournament, but it gives you a better opportunity to show a better resume and say, hey, we've won 12 of our last 15 or whatever, that might be 12 of their last 16 or 13 of their last 16. That looks really, really good to the committee. But they still are going to have to handle their business when they head to the conference tournament in Montgomery. The safest path, win the series against Coastal, and then reach the championship game in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. That's a very safe path. Your bubble path, so to just barely get yourself in there, win the series and make the semifinals against CCU as well. That is going to potentially help you there as well, but you're going to need some help nationally and some other things to shake out across the country. So that's a bubble path. That's something that's not as much in your control. And then the automatic bid route, which is how I believe they need to focus in on and let this happen, is to win the tournament. Beat Coastal Carolina, win the tournament. There's no debate. You get an automatic regional berth, right? Don't leave it to chance. Go out and play great baseball. Don't make it to where it's a pressured situation where guys are playing outside of themselves and trying to do things that they haven't done all season. Go out and play your game. Just understand the importance of the series that you have coming up this weekend and how important it is to win this conference tournament that's laid out ahead for you. So it's not something that's impossible, like I said. And if you go and you beat Coastal Carolina and you say you win 2 games and you finish off 16-14 in the standings, you could potentially see yourself maybe as a top 4 seed. And with the way that the bracket is set up, it is a single elimination there on Tuesday. So it's a play-in game and then double elimination from there on out. So say you're a 4 seed, you would play the 7:30 game on Wednesday, May the 20th. And then you would go and play that Thursday once again. So that would be in game number 6. So you play 7:30 again. You play 7:30 all the way through, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, you'd be playing the late games all the way through, and you would just need to win Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay, obviously you have the double elimination implications of everything, but if you handle your business and go all the way across and win it all, you're not leaving it to chance. No, you're not leaving it up to the committee. You're saying we punched our ticket and we don't need any validation on whether or not we're going to get in. We're in. That is what I think this team needs to do. And I think that they very well can do it if they continue to play the way that they've been playing this back half of the season. The committee is definitely going to look at your overall record. They're going to look at your road wins that you had. They're going to look at your RPI. You're going to look at your record against top 50 and top 100 teams, and they're going to look at how you finished the season. So if you stay hot, they love that. They're going to push you in. And they have the perfect opportunity to be peaking at the right time. So kudos to the Cajuns for picking up a huge road series victory, for answering in a pressured situation. Kudos to guys like Lee Amedee, Colt Brown, Blaze Rodriguez, Drew Markle, guys on the bump for handling their business like Ty Roman and Cody Brash, Sawyer Pruitt. All those guys, the names that I'm calling, they're going to have to continue to play really, really well because now everything is centered around Coastal Carolina. So as we round up this episode, the question I have for you guys, do you think the Cajuns have done enough to earn an at-large bid? And if they win the series against Coastal Carolina, especially, or do you think that they need to win the Sun Belt tournament like what I'm thinking as well? I'd like to hear about it. Let me know down in the comments. Let me know down anywhere that you're listening to this video, that you're watching this video. Let me know what you think. I'd like to hear your answer. So that's going to wrap up this episode here on Ragin Rundown. Guys, if you made it to this point, thank you so much. If you're watching on YouTube, please like this video, share it, and leave a comment down below. But most importantly, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you know when we're dropping episodes just like this one. If you're listening, follow the podcast feed, rate the show, and leave us a review because that's going to help us get in front of more Ragin Cajun fans just like yourself. I'm your guy, Jamarcus Fitzpatrick. We'll see you guys next time.